Hotep, 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 fam. Now, I don't just be want to just go off on nobody and nothing like that. And I don't have no beef against nobody like that. But y'all just can't be having beefs with people on stuff that don't even exist. You can't have false beef on stuff that don't exist. You can't be calling names and saying people calling you names on stuff that don't even exist. Listen what I'm saying.
Israeli biblical scholar Yechezkel Kaufman and Freud's view about the Egyptianness of Moses. Scholars have tried to take a longer view of the evolution of this idea and extended it back to the 19th or 20th centuries BCE, an era in which, according to the traditional account, the founding patriarch of Israelite religion, Abraham, lived. And what they've happened to come up with is not the view that in the time of Abraham, as it were, about whom we have no historical or archaeological evidence to support his existence. So in the era of the mythic Abraham, they surmised that there was a form of religion that was somewhat between polytheism and monotheism that they refer to as monolatry, a kind of belief in a pantheon of gods, but one of whom was significantly superior to the others. And so, according to that scholarly account, which I find persuasive, try to take a longer view of the evolution of this idea and extended it back to the 19th or 20th centuries BCE, an era in which, according to the traditional account, the founding patriarch of Israelite religion, Abraham, lived. And what they've happened to come up with is not the view that in the time of Abraham, as it were, about whom we have no historical or archaeological evidence to support his existence. So in the era of the mythic Abraham, they surmised.
This is Dr. David, Professor David M. Myers, Jewish historian. He is the student of the number one Jewish historian in the 20th century. He was supposed to be the student of the greatest Jewish historian ever. That's what he's a student of. And he just told you that Abraham is a myth. They have no archaeological evidence that he ever existed. We're going to play this one more time so you can get that in your head.
About whom we have no historical or archaeological evidence to happen to come up with is not the view that in the time of Abraham, as it were, about whom we have no historical or archaeological evidence to support his existence. So in the era of the mythic Abraham, they surmised that there was a form of religion that was somewhat between polytheism and monotheism that they refer to as monolatry.
Wow. Kind of belief. So they just jacked a religion that they said is between monotheism and polytheism. Okay, let's go to our next point. Let's check this out right here. Oh my God. Watch this.
Unwitting and unsuspecting and unwilling at certain points leader, Moses, who developed over the course of time both the courage and the voice to lead his people out of the condition of slavery to which they had been subjected over hundreds of years in the act of Exodus as they escaped Egypt, commemorated during the Jewish holiday of Passover. So at this point in time in our account, we must say two things. One, we're not certain that we have actual corroborating historical or archaeological evidence for anything that I've mentioned to date.
What?
Nothing about Abraham and relatively little about Moses and an Israelite presence in Egypt, or for that matter, the Exodus itself.
Oh my God!
At the same time, we have very powerful myths.
Oh my God! To say you got very powerful myths, you ain't got nothing that's true. Everything he's talking about from the Bible is a joke, is a myth. It doesn't exist. But yet they got the whole world fooled that They are the ones, and then they even got you arguing that you think that you're the one over some Jewish myth. Let's take that back.
That have thing that I've mentioned to date.
Oh, go ahead, Professor.
In our
Teach.
account. We must
Now,
say
this is a
two
real
things. One,
professor
we're
right
not
here.
certain
This is
that
a
we
professor.
have actual corroborating historical archaeological evidence for anything that I've mentioned to date.
Teach. You don't have what,
Nothing about
Professor?
that we have actual corroborating historical archaeological evidence for anything that I've mentioned to date. Nothing about Abraham, and relatively little about Moses and an Israelite presence in Egypt, or for that matter, the Exodus itself. At the same time, we have very powerful myths that have survived from antiquity into the present. And
Oh my God. And at the same time, they just have very powerful myths that have succeeded from antiquity to the present. And y'all just think I'll be talking sometime, huh? Oh, he just be going off. He be tripping. Nah, you don't be thinking I'll be tripping. Y'all just be waiting for me to say something to put you up to speed, huh? All right, we're going to do this one more time.
two very powerful myths, relatively little about Moses and an Israelite presence in Egypt, or for that matter, the Exodus itself. At the same time, we have very powerful myths that have survived from antiquity into the present. And two very powerful myths are one, the myth or historical existence, depending on one's perspective, of Exodus, liberation from bondage in Egypt, as Moses led the Israelites into freedom, first in the Sinai desert, and then to the brink of entry into the land of Canaan. And then the second idea is the idea of monotheism. So Exodus and monotheism, two ideas which actually come together, create a kind of braided fabric around a single idea, which is the idea that was actually institutionalized in the act of revelation at Mount Sinai, and that is the idea of chosenness. The idea that...
Oh my God, this is crazy, man. Listen to this idea.
This people was uniquely protected by God, granted a unique set of
the people who made up
laws at Mount Sinai,
the myth people,
and was uniquely subject to the providence of an all-powerful being.
They made it up.
And that's where we begin to get into the first of our causal explanations. The very idea of monotheism lent to the Israelites a sense of chosenness. Alternatively, we could say that if we were adopting the traditional perspective, God chose the Israelites. But nonetheless, at a certain point in time, the Israelites came to believe that they were the chosen people of God.
You make up a history, you make up a God, you make up everything, and then you say because you made up a religion for yourself, and now that you believe in the one God, you're the chosen one, and you better than everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, people of the world, you have it right from the horse's mouth. Don't be getting mad at everybody. I ain't trying to say I'm a Jew. I'm trying to tell you that stuff don't even exist, and it comes from them. Love you.